Episode 112. Tonks, Harry, Ron, and Hermione proceeded up to the very top deck, where there were 2 chairs at the very front of the bus and 2 at the back. Stan Shunpike, the conductor, followed Harry and Ron eagerly to the back. Heads turned as Harry passed, and when he sat down, he saw all the faces flick back to the front again. As Harry and Ron handed Stan 11 sickles each, the bus set off again, swaying ominously. It rumbled around Grimmauld Square, weaving on and off the pavement. Then, with another tremendous bang, they were all flung backward. Ron's chair toppled right over, and Pigwidgeon, who had been on his lap, burst out of his cage and flew twittering wildly up to the front of the bus, where he fluttered down upon Hermione's shoulder instead. Harry, who had narrowly avoided falling by seizing a candle bracket, looked out of the window. They were now speeding down what appeared to be a motorway.
"Just outside Birmingham," said Stan happily, answering Harry's unasked question as Ron struggled up from the floor. "You keeping well then, Harry? I seen your name in the paper loads over the summer, but it warn't never nothing very nice. I said to Ern, I said, he didn't seem like a nutter when we met him. Just goes to show, don't it?"
He handed over their tickets and continued to gaze enthralled at Harry. Apparently, Stan did not care how nutty somebody was if they were famous enough to be in the paper. The night bus swayed alarmingly, overtaking a line of cars on the inside. Looking toward the front of the bus, Harry saw Hermione cover her eyes with her hands, Pigwidgeon still swaying happily on her shoulder. Bang! Chairs slid backwards again as the night bus jumped from the Birmingham motorway to a quiet country lane full of hairpin bends. Hedgerows on either side of the road were leaping out of their way as they mounted the verges. From here, they moved to a main street in the middle of a busy town, then to a viaduct surrounded by tall hills, then to a wind-swept road between high-rise flats, each time with a loud bang. "I've changed my mind," muttered Ron, picking himself up from the floor for the 6th time. "I never want to ride on here again."
"Listen, it's all going to stop after this," said Stan brightly, swaying toward them. "That bossy woman up front who got with you, she's given us a little tip to move you up the queue. We're just going to let Madame Marsh off first, though."
There was more retching from downstairs, followed by a horrible spattering sound.
"She's not feeling her best."
A few minutes later, the night bus screeched to a halt outside a small pub, which squeezed itself out of the way to avoid a collision. They could hear Stan ushering the unfortunate Madame Marsh out of the bus and the relieved murmurings of her fellow passengers on the second deck. The bus moved on again, gathering speed until, bang! They were rolling through a snowy Hogsmeade. Harry caught a glimpse of the Hog's Head down its side street, the severed boar's head sign creaking in the wintry wind. Flecks of snow hit the large window at the front of the bus. At last they rolled to a halt outside the gates to Hogwarts. Lupin and Tonks helped them get off the bus with their luggage and then got off to say goodbye. Harry glanced up at the 3 decks of the night bus and saw all the passengers staring down at them, noses flat against the windows.
"You'll be safe once you're in the grounds,"
said Tonks, casting a careful eye around at the deserted road. "Have a good time, okay?"
"Look after yourselves,"
said Lupin, shaking hands all around and reaching Harry last.
"And listen."
He lowered his voice while the rest of them exchanged last-minute goodbyes with Tonks.
"Harry, I know you don't like Snape, but he is a superb occlumens, and we all, Sirius included, want you to learn to protect yourself, so work hard, all right?"
Yeah, all right, said Harry heavily, looking up into Lupin's prematurely lined face. See you then. The six of them struggled up the slippery drive toward the castle, dragging their trunks. Hermione was already talking about knitting a few elf hats before bedtime. Harry glanced back when they reached the oak front doors. The night bus had already gone, and he half wished, given what was coming the following day, that he was still on board. Harry spent most of the next day dreading the evening. His morning potions lesson did nothing to dispel his trepidation, as Snape was as unpleasant as ever. And Harry's mood was further lowered by the fact that members of the DA were continually approaching him in the corridors between classes, asking hopefully whether there would be a meeting that night. I'll let you know when the next one is, Harry said over and over again, but I can't do it tonight. I've got to go to remedial potions. You take remedial potions, said Zachariah Smith superciliously, having cornered Harry in the entrance hall after lunch. Good Lord, you must be terrible. Snape doesn't usually give extra lessons, does he? As Smith strode away in an annoyingly buoyant fashion, Ron glared after him. Shall I jinx him? I can still get him from here, he said, raising his wand and taking aim between Smith's shoulder blades. Oh, forget it, said Harry dismally. It's what everyone's going to think, isn't it? That I'm really stupid. Hi, Harry, said a voice behind him. He turned around and found Cho standing there. Oh, said Harry as his stomach leapt uncomfortably. Hi. We'll be in the library, Harry, said Hermione firmly, and she seized Ron above the elbow and dragged him off toward the marble staircase. Had a good Christmas? Asked Cho. Yeah, not bad, said Harry. Mine was pretty quiet, said Cho. For some reason, she was looking rather embarrassed. There's another Hogsmeade trip next month. Did you see the notice? What? Oh, no, I haven't checked the notice board since I got back. Yes, it's on Valentine's Day. Right, said Harry, wondering why she was telling him this. Well, I suppose you want to... Oh, only if you do, she said eagerly. Harry stared. He had been about to say, I suppose you want to know when the next DA meeting is, but her response did not seem to fit. He said. Oh, it's okay if you don't, she said, looking mortified. Don't worry, I'll see you around. She walked away. Harry stood staring after her, his brain working frantically. Then something clunked into place. Cho! Hey, Cho! He ran after her, catching her halfway up the marble staircase. Do you want to come into Hogsmeade with me on Valentine's Day? Oh, yes, she said, blushing crimson and beaming at him. Right. Well, that's settled then, said Harry, and feeling that the day was not going to be a complete loss after all, he headed off to the library to pick up Ron and Hermione before their afternoon lessons, walking in a rather bouncy way himself. By 6 o'clock that evening, however, even the glow of having successfully asked out Cho Chang was insufficient to lighten the ominous feeling that intensified with every step Harry took toward Snape's office. He paused outside the door when he reached it, wishing he were almost anywhere else. Then, taking a deep breath, knocked and entered. It was a shadowy room, lined with shelves bearing hundreds of glass jars, in which floated slimy bits of animals and plants suspended in variously colored potions. In a corner stood the cupboard full of ingredients that Snape had once accused Harry, not without reason, of robbing. Harry's attention was drawn toward the desk, however, where a shallow stone basin engraved with runes and symbols lay in a pool of candlelight. Harry recognized it at once. Dumbledore's pensieve.